Alright, let me set up a situation for you. It's a new year. It's January. The first film you saw this month and this year was The Forest, which let you know firsthand that the stigma about January movies is real. The next film on your list is The Boy, directed by William Brent Bell. While looking up William Brent Bell, you discover his last three movies were Stay Alive, The Devil Inside, and Where. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the only thing you have in store for you from this director is a big bowl of suffering. And it's January. And the movie was written by someone who's only just gotten a script made into a film. And the advertisements for the film feature emojis from viewer tweets instead of actual quotes. This is my burden. This is the valley of darkness I walk for you. Going in to see The Boy, I had a strong suspicion I'd hate myself when I walked back out. I'd been burned once already by The Forest, and I had been anticipating a good time with that one. As such, I needed to really steel myself for this new experience. I saw the writing on the wall, I accepted its existence, I went to the film, and I let all my suspicions and expectations drop into the abyss while screen vision played out, just waiting for the trailers to roll. Coming out of the theater an hour and a half later, I realized that January may actually just be the month of backwards advertising. Your expectations just may get smashed, and you might go home smiling. The Boy is difficult to talk about. I need to be careful what I say because I don't want to ruin it. However, I'll say that my expectations of the quality of the film weren't the only ones that were broken. Many of my expectations about the events and path the film would take were too. This movie is not what it seems, and it's wonderful to say that. Jump scares barely exist at all, with the only major hit being the one we saw in the trailers with the painting of the boy, Brahms. The main character is a very intelligent and realistic person, played by Lauren Cohen, who is so strong in her performance I may go see other films featuring her in a role purely to see her act and grow in her career. Her counterpart, Rupert Evans, is playing Malcolm, the housekeeper, and he's just as strong in his acting, portraying another believable, realistic character who isn't just another leading man love interest. They work wonderfully together in their acting and have a natural connection that brings out the best in each other's performance, particularly during scenes of characterization. And what's more is that we learn about Lauren Cohen's character, Greta, through her natural progression of trust in Malcolm as she opens up more about her personal struggles as a character, and these actually tie into the film's premise. That premise, of course, being Greta's job of taking care of Brahms, a porcelain doll that is treated as if he's alive. Naturally, Brahms was the son of the doll's owners, who died tragically on his 8th birthday, and his death was never accepted by his parents. As such, they treat the doll as a living 8-year-old boy to this day and hire nannies to take care of him in their absence. Greta is one such nanny and a line of other women who have come and gone before her. This doesn't bear all that much mentioning because the trailer takes care of setting up this idea. But that's why I'm bothering to mention it. Trailers have a very, very bad record of giving away far too much of what happens in the movie. They spoil it before you even sit down in a seat. But whoever cut the trailers for The Boy knew exactly how to do their job and provide justice to the film. All that you need to know going in is what Greta's here to do and what she learns from her first few days on the job. The less you know, the better off you are. Like I said, this movie defies your expectations and the result is very satisfying to see. Again, this movie is not what you think it is. I shouldn't say much more than that. But what I can tell you is that this is a movie that feels very clever when you think about it going home afterward. All the little bits and pieces make sense, and best of all, the movie leaves you to put them together yourself without the usual end cap of exposition by characters. Nobody in the end of the movie just describes what they went through and puts the pieces together for the audience. The writer trusts that you're smart enough, and it feels like a small reward each time you connect another dot while thinking back over the entire film. Those dots also create a very convincing, cohesive picture, and it all feels very clever and just makes sense. I've also got to give this movie praise for two very major parts on top of defying expectations throughout. Not only did these two portions defy tradition and cliché, they stuck the landing on the feelings they needed to convey. There are two things that a horror movie should absolutely do to someone. Provide an instance of full-fledged, holding your breath terror, and provide a moment of being exposed to something that your mind cannot comprehend for a few seconds or refuses to believe outright. The Boy pulls that off, and it feels so good to see. Now, the film isn't truly horrifying the whole way through. The ramifications of the ending really makes the horror work when you think over everything and connect the dots. However, the moments that really work for the horror beats and tension do nail it, as few as there are. It's not really a movie that's meant to be a haunted house ride the entire way, and you come to understand that halfway through, but it works in the film's favor. Is this an absolute home run? No, not really. It's not going to be one of the legends of modern horror, but it is good enough to earn your ticket money and leave you with a sense that this really was worth your time. If anything, The Boy is a solid film you can't really complain about. It's definitely good, just edging into the border of being called great. There are aspects of this film that beat Sinister 2 by a mile, and The Boy definitely curb stomps The Forest for being an overall better film in every single aspect. I wouldn't call it a movie that haunts your nightmares, but it is going to be one of the first smart horror films you've seen in a while, and it really knows what it's doing during portions of its filming. The best way I can describe the movie's quality is by saying that, in 2 movies or so, the writer, Stacy Minier, just might create a grand slam. I'm excited for this writer's career. I'm excited to see Lauren Cohen and Rupert Evans in more movies. And I'm utterly relieved that this film wasn't a sour disappointment or ruined by cliches. Character earns a 7 out of 10. Greta, our hero, is well developed, and I absolutely enjoyed Lauren Cohen's performance. It's believable, it's charming, it has subtlety. It's just really good acting that, again, defies expectations for a movie like this. Greta has a backstory, she makes the leading man earn her trust, she's definitely smarter and far more adaptive than the average horror movie heroine, and you only want good things to happen for her. Rupert Evans as Malcolm is every bit as charming, but some more backstory on him and moments of characterizing could have added up the points to really make his character power equal to Greta's. Still, I really enjoyed having him around. He's another character who makes smart decisions, has a rounded personality, and is never just there to be handsome and rescue the girl in trouble. They're very good characters you can believe in, but it's not Silence of the Lambs level of character. Again, very good characters, but there was certainly room for some improvement here and there. Story gets the same score, 7 out of 10. Again, I can't say much, but expectations were smashed, and while we've seen the haunted doll idea before, the path of the movie just kept defying expectations and jumping over cliches. More could have been done with this for sure, with more time spent in the final act and the events therein, but I'm still happy to see this is a writer's first feature film produced, and I'm very optimistic about their future. Fear gets a 5 out of 10. Not a thoroughly haunting film, but the sequences that really hit stick the landing and provide most of the score here. This is a movie that becomes much more horrifying and disturbing after you finish and start thinking about it as a whole piece. And when you think about what could have been done better, you do come to realize that logic of its ending establishes the rules for what can and cannot happen prior to its occurrence. Certain things can't be ramped up in terms of fear while the film builds to its climax due to what the climax actually is and what it means. But this is why I believe the final act needed a lot more breathing room. That's where a lot of the horror points could have been scored, but we weren't able to dig that up. I've got a sneaking suspicion it may have been in the writer's head to work in that direction though. It's just the circumstances of being a new writer with a director who has an awful track record that keeps us from adding to the runtime to explore a little bit further. Style receives a 5 out of 10 as well. I think a good amount of the reason Fear's not higher here is actually due to the style field. The setting is great, outside and inside, but the real power behind providing an atmosphere and establishing strong feelings could definitely have been higher. The film is well shot, well decorated, and does have good moments in the style department, but more punch in that direction could have raised the fear and tension throughout. Enjoyment gets a 7 out of 10. I honestly cared about the events and characters in the movie the whole way through. I loved every second of the major fear beats, and I wanted to know what was happening here. And even when I thought I knew what was coming next or anticipating it, they broke my expectations and took it somewhere else, which is always fantastic. But I feel like there's a lot more to the ending that could have been in the film to increase its horror quota, and maybe some more discoveries in the house to allude to its ending. But like I said, I've got a real sense that the credentials for production in this movie restricted it from happening. In order to get more out of the offerings given in the final act, the runtime would have definitely needed about 10 more minutes or so. And that leaves the final score as a 6.5 by the averaging. I really do want to just give it more like a 6.8 here though. It really did come so close to being 7. My advice is that if you were genuinely interested in seeing The Boy, I do recommend buying the ticket. It's a clever movie that isn't the kind of film you've seen too many times before, and it's a good showing for a first-time writer. It respects its audience, it does a good job with major fear beats, it keeps you thinking, and its characters are a major breath of fresh air. Now, this isn't a blockbuster, of course. In terms of being a horror movie, there could have been more done for sure. Definitely more could have been done. But in terms of what we usually get, The Boy does reward you for purchasing a ticket and will inspire new writers to dodge cliches and think outside the box. It is a film to learn from. Vision is a tough score because it does defy all expectations, but I think that may have been the very mission statement of the script. Vision delivers 6 out of 10. Congratulations, STX Entertainment! You rescued the second half of January. And as for Mr. William Brent Bell, well, keep choosing writers that are as smart as Stacey Manier and you really might turn your career around. You're on the path to redeeming yourself. As for Stacey, this was a good showing that reveals genuine potential, and I expect great things in the future. Thanks for coming by for my review of The Boy. If you see it, let me know what you thought. Just don't spoil the big thing in the comments section, alright? Let's keep it a secret here. If you like this review, you can let me know by hitting the appropriate button below, and if you're a fiend for new horror movies, subscribe to join me in my quest to see and review every major horror movie this year. I'm Nick Nocturne, and like a creepy doll you left in the other room, I'll be seeing you again real soon, when you least expect it. Sleep tight.